Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Brainwork Framework. Today with me is Lori Highby, the CEO and founder of Keystone Click, a digital marketing firm based here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Since 2008, Lori has been an entrepreneur and a luminary in the digital marketing space and is the host of the Social Capital podcast and broadcast for manufacturers. Lori is here today to discuss AI marketing, the impacts now, and those to come. Thank you again so much, Lori, for joining us today.
Well, excited to be here, and I love talking anything marketing. So thanks for inviting me, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was so happy that you were able to willing to come onto our little show now. I know you've been doing this for a very long time. We're kind of new. I'm kind of new in the space. So really my intention is just kind of to just throw out all of my little sticky pods and see what they stick to and reel in as much information from people who have been doing this a lot longer than me. More or less just to try and build a wealth of knowledge that I can share with others and then the audience can also absorb as well.
Totally.
So with that, let's just talk a little bit about you, Lori, and yourself, your journey into the business and marketing world. How'd you get started into this whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, we can go back really, really way back, or I'd like to just start my story roughly when I'm first in college. Actually, when I started going to school, I was going to school for commercial arts, graphic design type work. And then I found myself in a sociology class, and I was just fascinated by it. The creativity goes beyond just, color and lines, and that there's a lot of impact that we can have as marketers on people's decision making. So then I um, redirected my studies to marketing. I worked at two different marketing agencies before I decided to jump all in on
Right.
my own journey in 2008. So, yeah, business marketing is completely fascinating to me. I'm learning new things every single day, and I'm sure you are as well. But yeah, so I got started with Keystone Click because, well, it was 2008. It wasn't the best time from a economic standpoint. As I said, I was at, two other agencies. So the agency I was at was more of a traditional agency doing a lot of outdoor print and radio type advertising. And I loved that I learned so much in that space because it really set the foundation and the framework for, what happens in the digital space.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of growth opportunity because, you do a billboard, you do a billboard. There's not
Right.
much beyond that. And 2008, rough time to find a new role at a position. So I had done some kind of freelance contract work for helping friends with their small businesses and websites. And folks kept asking me to do stuff on the side. And I decided, well, I'm going to just take this big leap of faith and see if I can make this into a full time gig. And here we are 15 years later. I've got a team of 8 and clients across the country. So something worked.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the best when you have the small starts. Oh, well, I guess I decided to try this thing for myself. And then you have that fast forward moment. You're like, yeah, all of those little things, the ups and downs, everything led to here right now where you are in a moment where you can say, yeah, okay, I've done it. Where do I go from here, sort of thing, right? So I guess there's probably quite a bit of a difference between the traditional marketing, like you mentioned, where it's outdoor print, billboards, stuff like that, to what you're doing today, which is digital marketing, growing people's presence on the online space. Obviously, there's going to be a million different things that you could say as to what are the differences between the two. But from you, I guess, kind of going back from the traditional space into back in 2008, yes, there was Facebook, and we were still transitioning off of MySpace at the time and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I don't even know if LinkedIn was around in 2008. It might have been, but it certainly wasn't what it is today as far
Sure.
as your presence online. What would you I guess what would you say the as a marketer, what would you say your main principles change to focus on from the traditional marketing to the digital space?
There is a lot of crossover, but I think what's important is to start with research and to not just jump into the tactics. And I find a lot of businesses make these mistakes because they attended a conference or they read a couple of headlines, that this
Mhm.
is the hottest channel to be in. But what's important is really understanding your audience. And I think, take a step back and really get clarity on what is the pain that your audience has that you're ultimately the solution for. So that requires some research and then really understanding how your brand is perceived and is it being perceived the way that you want it to be perceived so that, is there opportunity to make some adjustments so that you're being perceived in a way that is attractive to that target audience. And then it's really good to look at the competitive landscape, especially in that digital space, because to some extent there is a level playing field in the digital space, right? There's a
Sure.
lot of free organic content type things that you can create. So understanding what your competitors are doing, what they're saying, what type of content people are engaging with in that digital space, but also to identify what they're not saying based on understanding your audience and what they need. And that gives you that core opportunity to say, this is what I need to say, and this is the channel I need to be saying it in. And I think that's kind of the core principles that we really focus on to make sure that you're crafting a message that's going to connect and resonate with that ideal customer and pull them in to want to engage with you further.
Sure, sure. That makes complete sense. And I feel like with the digital space, you might have a little bit more. I mean, this is just me kind of shooting off things that I really know about, but you might have a little bit more control over really the entirety of the marketing journey from beginning to end. Because from a billboard aspect, you're limited to where the billboard is and the
Mhm.
traffic going back and forth and blah blah blah. All of those different things that you really don't have control over. But when you go into the digital space, you do have a little bit more control over where your ads being seen, who's
Sure.
seeing it, how long it's gonna be there, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's making sure that you're putting, your time and money into the right spots. And that's one of the beautiful pieces about digital is that you can say, this is the bucket of people that I want to see my ad, and you can put your ad right in front of them. Where, yeah, I'd say the traditional advertising is more that like spray and pray methodology. I mean, yeah, there's industry specific publications and you can do direct mail, which, there's some targeted efforts in that sense as well. But the data behind the digital aspects allows you to help make strategic decisions going forward, whether it's a good, plan to keep investing dollars, times, and resources in, or if you need to make some adjustments to that plan based on the data, how people engage with your content or didn't engage. The other thing that I'm a big advocate of is you can really push people through that customer journey and kind of expedite that sales process by really leaning into a strategic digital plan. Now, I'm not gonna totally say don't do anything traditional because there's definitely still a value to traditional and the old sales, you need at least 7 touches before you have that sales opportunity.
Yeah.
The more diverse those touches are, so if they see a billboard and then see your ad online, those are 2 different touches, which will help increase the opportunity. So I'm a fan of, diversifying your message across different mediums, but being strategic in the sense of where and what is being said.
That makes a lot of sense, for sure, rather than just blasting somebody with 7 different emails over 2-week period.
Yeah.
Like you said, diversify. That makes absolutely sense. And would you say that tracking metrics in the digital space is a lot easier than it would have been in the traditional format, the printing and mailing and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely things nowadays that you can do to have some better conversion data to the traditional, but in the digital landscape, there's every movement, every click, every view, every impression is tracked, and there's concerns with privacy and how that's evolving.
Right.
But there's still a lot of data that you could collect that's going to help you make intelligent business decisions moving forward with your marketing plan to help you achieve your business goals.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, as far as a company, so say a company does come to you and they say, "All right, I have a product, I have clients, but I need to go to that next step." Do you find that people come to you kind of with the, "I don't know what to do, you're the expert, help me," or do you find or appreciate more when people come to you and they have an idea of where they want to go, they're just not quite sure that they need that expert in the field to get them to that point? Do you have a preference or one or the other?
Well, we have both, and it really depends on, if the client that comes to us and says, "Oh, I know my audience is on LinkedIn and that's a channel that we 100% need to be on." Great. We can build, a strategic plan around LinkedIn, but we still want to do the research to make sure and confirm that that is indeed the channel that your audience is on, right? So, we had a client that assumed it was LinkedIn, but we found after research that the majority of their audience was really heavy into listening in the podcast. So instead of saying, let's put the time and energy and being active on LinkedIn, we went a different route and focused on getting them interviewed on different podcasts where their audience was, already captured within that listener base. But on the other side of things, yeah, we'll have people come to us and say, we know who our audience is. We have no idea where they're hanging out. Help us figure that out. And both of them work. But again, we really lean on the research to say this puts more confident in us and you that this is the plan to move forward on to achieve your goal. And sometimes it's, we have to really focus on evaluating the current state to build that true roadmap that says these are the steps that need to be taken in order for you to achieve your goal. And sometimes those steps, that step one, step two, are things that people don't want to do. You know, if your website isn't properly set up to convert that site visitor, then why are you going to spend money on advertising when we're driving them to a website that's not set up for conversion? So I find that clients are like, "Oh, we just did our site," and like, well, it's not set up to convert. So do you want to throw money out the door or let's
Mhm.
do it the right way, which may take longer, but doing it the right way is definitely something that I'm definitely a big fan of.
Yeah, yeah, and kinda going off that, I had somebody reach out to me who was in almost a very similar thing. She had a website, she had a product, she was an expert in her field. She was getting traffic to her website, but she wasn't getting any leads, any clients,
Hmm.
nobody. So I went to her website and I had to search for a way to contact her,
Hmm.
and I had to search for what it is she actually even did. There's all these big words and stuff like that, but, like, okay, I don't know what this is. I'm not an expert in your field, you are, you know? So really before anything could even happen, we had to say, "Okay, well, what you have here, let's make it more attractive
Hmm.
to folks before we start getting people to here," sort of thing. So yeah, that's definitely there's so many different things that come up when you have a company who wants to reach a goal. You gotta start from beginning, and honestly, being the expert in the marketing field, they don't even know what it is that they don't have, and you just have this
Correct.
check
Yeah.
boxes that you're going for, and
Yeah.
that's really where your value comes in.
100%. Yep.
So and honestly, this lady's website was filled with ChatGPT paragraphs over and over and over again, like, I could just you can tell.
Which is so obvious now.
It is, it is, it is, if you've read
It's
a
getting
couple,
cringe-worthy right now.
it really is, right? You're just like,
Yeah.
"Come on, you can't just copy and paste that
Yeah.
stuff, man."
Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking of ChatGPT and AI, there's that it's everywhere now. You can't go anywhere without seeing something
Sure.
from Midjourney or ChatGPT or something like that. And I know that's something that you wanted to talk about a little bit today, and I had a couple prompts and stuff like that,
Sure.
to bring up. So, I mean, do you find that you're jumping on the bandwagon of using all of these tools that are being implemented now just to help grow your business, or are you still on the research side of how they can help you optimally?
Well, I think, AI is a big topic because OpenAI was made public, a little over a year ago. But all honesty, we were using it before it was made available to the public. We had subscribed to some of the tools, and I've been researching it for probably close to 3 years now. So, and the research has gotten overwhelming because it's something new and different is happening every single day.
No kidding, yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Midjourney. I just saw that Midjourney is going to start doing video. So, like,
Oh,
right? Yeah. So that was a headline I saw today. How do you keep track of all of these tools and how they continue to evolve? Because it's a constant race to who can be the best tool, right? And there's
right.
new ones popping up constantly.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously so many of them do certain things, whether specific niche sort of things or
Yep.
all-encompassing. Do you feel that AI has already impacted, like, the landscape of digital marketing? Specific changes you've seen over the years, or are we in the beginning of that stage where we're gonna start seeing it later?
I think we're in the beginning of the stage and I have seen some impacts already. It's creating opportunity for efficiencies, but it's also, I think it's going to change the marketing agency as a whole. Because a lot of like our space currently is content creation. So
Mhm,
a lot of what we do is creating content for blogs and social and email and all those components. But these tools, they create efficiencies. Yes, we know how to use them in house, but why couldn't another, a client start using them on their own in-house? Nothing wrong with that. And I think it comes down to being strategic about it. No different than what we've already been doing for our clients is really understanding that it's the right message that's being communicated and it's being placed in the right location. So the tools can help to create efficiencies in drafting that message once you have that strategic framework already set up to go. So I think some marketing agencies that were strictly content and didn't put in other components with regards to, the strategic side of things, or even leveraging all sorts of AI and automation, because so that's another bucket of our offerings is to really streamline not just the marketing, but really that whole like sales enablement process and helping expedite that customer journey
right.
by leaning into AI, right? So you don't always have to have a human answering every single question. There's studies out there that say if you have a chatbot on your website, the site visitor, the consumer doesn't care if it's a robot or if it's a person, as long as they're getting accurate information that's going to help them solve that problem. So if you properly
Yeah.
set up your automation, leaning into AI to make sure it's answering those questions the right way, you're going to have a satisfied customer at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm feeling like it might turn into a thing where, or it already is turning into a thing where, because the tool is open and available to everyone, you have everyone trying to do it themselves. Not everybody's a graphic designer, but everybody can get Canva for 15 bucks a month
Sure. Yeah.
and do whatever they want to do. And do you find that that you're seeing a trend of people who are trying to just do things themselves more than relying on an expert, whether to save money or because they feel like the tool's there, I can figure it out, kind of do it? Do you see sort of a trend moving away from that?
There's definitely some of that trend that's happening, but I think there's issues outside of our things that we can control right now, like the economy. People are being more frugal with their buying decisions, holding their purse strings a little bit tighter. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent about that, but I blame the media for using the word recession over and over and over
Sure.
again. But at the end of the day, we all know, and we've all made these mistakes as entrepreneurs and startups. Is we can't do everything, so let's let the people that know their strength and let them swim in their lane. I'm not gonna try to fix my plumbing, I'm gonna hire a plumber. Yeah, there's a million YouTube videos online that I could figure it out if I wanted to, but I'd rather pay someone to do it the right way because they're educated, they've been doing it, they're veteran, they're seasoned, they know the right tools to do it efficiently. So at the end of the day, I don't think that it's gonna, we're gonna disappear by any means. But I think the right people, the smart people are gonna say, let me hire the experts who know how to do this so that I can focus on my area of expertise.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I found a similar thing when I had my insurance agency for a couple years. You can buy your own insurance online anywhere now. Every company is offering that, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea to not speak with somebody who's made that their career and has
Mhm.
done the research and understands the ins and outs and stuff like that. And I found that that was kind of a thing where people just they didn't care about the expert because it's right here. They felt like they could get it cheaper without having to pay an agent or whatever. But really, you're doing yourself a disservice by really only getting sort of the plastic wrapping of the whole thing. You're not getting any of the meat inside that is
Mhm.
filled by the expert, by the time you spent researching these things, the conversations you've had with people smarter than you that you've taken and you
Mhm.
wanna share with them. Everybody just wants to get it done themselves now, which is kind of what the internet has done over the last, 25 years, is just
Yeah.
make anything instant, give you the access to everything you need. I don't know if that's always a good thing, but yeah, it's just like that rather than reach out to the expert. But you said people who are smart, they will reach out to the expert because the smartest person knows that they don't know everything, right?
Correct. Yep.
And that was something that I kinda had to learn the hard way, but I learned it. So we're moving forward there. As far as you had mentioned, like, setting up your AI correctly for chatbots and stuff like that. Do you feel that machine learning is having a play in optimizing your advertising strategies, and how can businesses leverage it to enhance their own ROIs and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's no different than any other tool and just experience that we've had. So one of the fun things that we've been doing, and this is and you'd be surprised what you can use these tools for, but I'll take a discovery call, for example. So I recorded the call. This is a potential new client. I'm asking them a bunch of questions about their business. I take the transcript. I remove the client's actual name. So that's a very important point, is to never actually put client or business names or proprietary information into these tools. So I just say like client XYZ, any sort of mentioning them. I throw it in the chat GPT and I say, I give it the prompt that I'm conducting a sales discovery call. Please review the dialogue and let me know how I could have done a better job with conducting this discovery call. And you'd be surprised at what it said.
Wow, okay, so you're using it not as a way to connect with the customer necessarily, you're using it as a way to reflect on yourself and how
Oh,
you're.
many, many different ways. Yep.
That's
Yeah.
really clever, actually. I'm still learning. I hadn't thought about that at all, honestly. How could I have done
Yeah.
better? How could I have sent this email better? This is what I sent. Did I do good or
Hmm.
bad? No, that's actually really clever. Do you find that, like you said, you'd be surprised what it says? Do you find that it really does take the information and filter it to something that makes sense?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If I could, I'm gonna try to see if I can pull up one real quickly while we're still chatting here.
Yeah.
But you from while I'm pulling this up, I'll share like with the website chat, like you can build the rules around it. Basically, that's what's important. So it's not just, and it's setting up the right way. So you're saying and leveraging the tool to communicate, but then syncing it to your calendar to schedule an appointment, and so that depending on the tree decision tree that that conversation is having, if they like the answers and they say, "Hey, would you like to schedule an appointment?" Like how much time was saved that you didn't have to do an email back and forth or pick up a phone and call, try to coordinate a time, but letting the machine technology to answer the initial Q&A that the person had, and then pushing them to sync to your calendar to schedule appointment. Like that's again where it's expediting that customer journey and creating efficiencies. So yeah, let's see. One of the okay, this is this is Chat GPT called me out on a mistake I made on my sales discovery call, which I know it was just a good reminder, but I didn't have the budget conversation.
Oh, okay.
It specifically said it would be beneficial to discuss a budget range or improvement, even though they said they did not have a budget for this. So, like, okay, yeah, that's smart. I know that game to play, but I just didn't take that step. I just said, what's your budget? And they said I don't have one, and I just moved on to the next question instead of
Oh,
trying to like
sure.
zone it in. Like, well, is it 10,000? Is that 100,000? So. But I appreciate that it's like okay, that's a good reminder. Thank you for bringing that up to me.
Right, right. And to some who might think that using these tools as, in your capacity is a sort of a cop out or maybe a lazy way to go about it. In reality, like in real reality, it's not. It's doing the customer, the client, this person who might think this way, it's doing them a greater service because you're opening yourself to resources beyond you, really for the only intention to helping them get to where they want to be rather than, leaning on this AI tool so that you don't have to work as hard. That's not really what's happening at all.
Mhm. Yeah. No, the tool is allowing, and this is a bigger conversation for another time, but my philosophy around leveraging AI is to create efficiencies in any area of business where there's redundancy or opportunity to, expedite a process so that we can be more human with each other again. Because
Right.
we're so stuck on technology and I'm just as guilty. I sit at home scrolling my phone, scrolling the socials. We're all doing that nowadays. So let's try to get back to being humans and let's leverage the technology for good so that we can get back to being, human to human relationships.
Right, right. And that totally makes sense. So, like you said, bringing the human back into it, do you find that maybe potentially, or has it already? Do you think AI is going to have an impact on the role of human creativity in digital marketing? Like you said, Midjourney's doing videos now. Is that going to take
Oh,
over? So just
no, it's absolutely helping with, when someone's got to write something and they're just staring at a blank page. It's a great tool to get some inspiration and some ideas to start things flowing.
sure.
I mean, there's definitely a ton of content, as we talked about early on, that's being created already that people are just copying and pasting. But you and I both acknowledge that it's obvious that that's just a true copy and paste. So I really advocate and recommend using the tool simply for that ideation as opposed to the end product. Plus, there's some, issues with regards to like copyright and trademark that you want to be concerned with. And, if it's AI generated, you can't copyright that stuff, so you don't actually own it. So you want to be careful about what you are publishing and that's coming from any sort of AI tool.
Right. So really it is important if you're dead set on using AI for any sort of content creation, it's really important to go at it with the mindset of you're going to be using this as an inspirational tool
Mhm.
to do your own personal thing rather than you create it, I'm just going to take it and throw my name on it kind of thing.
Yep. Yep. Totally.
And we had
Okay.
kind of mentioned that we've seen people doing that. Are you finding a lot of examples of that or was it like kind of a lot at first and then people kind of found out and now it's sort of dialed back?
I feel like there's more and more people that are doing it because they're not. I think that we're definitely still in the early adopter stage of AI, right? When I go and speak on this topic and I ask people to raise their hands that have tried using any sort of AI tool,
Right.
I'd say maybe about 25% of the room is raising their hand. And then I ask who's used it today to really get like, okay, I tried it once versus like it's part of my daily routine now. And there's usually only like one or two people that are raising their hands. So I find that it's still at the early adoption stage. And when I teach on this, I actually do a live demo of Chat GPT to just show people it's not scary,
Right.
but to also open up their eyes to what is happening with the technology. And that's where I always win the audience over. But when I lost where I was going with that. The question, oh, but then I think these people are using it and then they're publishing it without, really thinking through the true copy and paste versus like this is just for ideation, and therefore it's obvious to me, I guess, and maybe some of those that have been using it longer, what is, drawing right from AI and what isn't.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if I look at something and I can sort of guess if it was written by AI, if there's like a three-syllable adjective behind every single word, it's just like, "Come on, you don't have to sound that smart. Let's just tone it down a little bit." So, the future of AI in marketing, obviously, you said we're at the early adoption stage of it now. We're starting to see some of the things that AI can do that people are using AI for, whether correctly or incorrectly. What do you think the next 12 months, next 5 years, we're gonna see as far as not even just the digital marketing space, but entertainment, the content creation itself in general. Do you think that it's really gonna lean more towards AI developed, human tweaked, or is it gonna be, we still make the stuff, we just use AI to polish it and make it a little bit better?
No, I think it's going to be more of the latter. I mean, Paul Reitzer, who's the founder of Marketing AI Institute, he's quoted saying that AI will impact every knowledge worker in the next 1 to 2 years. And what I refer to when he's saying knowledge worker, I'm thinking basically if your job involves sitting at a computer using your brain, AI is going to have an impact on that job. And if you think about it today, tools are evolving faster than we can even comprehend what's happening with them.
Sure.
The version of whatever technology you're using today is going to be the dumbest version of that tool that you'll ever use.
Sure, that's fair. That's very fair.
It's fascinating to think about how how much, and then everyone's using it differently and everyone's sharing how they're using it. It's fascinating what's happening with it.
Right, and then you have AI creating more AI tools,
Yes.
and then you start, that's where it gets scary to me, when you have AI creating AI, because then who's making the rules? Who's setting the parameters that you have to stay within? The
Hmm.
AI is.
Yep.
Who's in charge of that? I don't know, I'm not, so it's scary. So, kinda just recapping sort of the whole thing, AI in digital marketing, in content creation, it's not a burden, it's not a taboo. It's really just like any tool, how it's used.
But
And the expertise of the person behind using the tool is really going to determine the value of what this tool can do, essentially.
100%. Yep. Absolutely.
So our audience here for our podcast is generally entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners, stuff like that. People who are just looking to either start a business, who have started a business and are just trying to figure out, what don't I know? Because as a business owner, there's so many things you don't know and you don't know what you don't know. From your expertise over the last 15 years doing what you've been doing, speaking to somebody who's sort of newly getting into to being a business owner, not necessarily marketing, say they have a product to sell or something, would you have a little bit of advice for them when it comes to the concept of reaching out to a marketing expert versus doing it yourself because the tools are available?
Sure. And it goes down to understanding the strategy behind it. At the end of the day, when you do reach out to a marketing expert, I think it's important to get clear on what is the objective that you're trying to achieve. Because at the end of the day, if you're just saying, I need a website, and then someone's going to just build you a website without understanding the clear goal, then how do you know if it was successful or not? So having some clarity on what it is that you're trying to achieve is going to be important. But also I would make sure that you're looking at the work that they've done for other people and ask questions about, have they worked with your type of business? Do they understand your industry? ask for referrals or references so that you can, be confident in the relationship, and also make sure that you have some means of measuring the success, and that you're going to have that ongoing communication to know that, they're on track or off track. I think that's really important to have that conversation too.
Right, right. And if you're using the right marketing person, then they're going to be measuring that for you as well. They're gonna be
Correct.
measuring, the
Yeah,
success of their strategies and whatnot.
absolutely.
Well, I think that's really all I have as far as my list of questions. I really appreciate you taking the time out of this. I know you're like a certified grown up and all that stuff, so I really appreciate it. I really do. It's really cool to meet folks who've been doing this for a long time, and I really appreciate you taking the time and effort. Thank you so much, and we'll chat soon.
All right. You have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Lori Highby from Keystone Click, and thank you for listening to Brainwork Framework. If you want to listen to more of our episodes, head on over to podbean.com, check us out on Spotify, and if you want to be a guest on the podcast, go over to focused-biz.com and fill out the form. We'll talk to you then.